In the quiet countryside of Portugal, in the humble village of Fatima, 3 children once gazed into heaven and the world was never the same again. This isn't fiction, this isn't folklore, this is the true account of a supernatural encounter that shaped the course of Catholic history and possibly foretold its greatest internal crisis. And at the center of it all, a secret. No, not just a secret, the third secret. In 1917, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to 3 shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos, and her cousins, Jacinta and Francisco Mato, 6 times between May and October. She didn't come with thunder. She didn't speak to kings. She came to children at the final apparition. Before tens of thousands gathered at the Covadar area, Mary gave the children 3 secrets. These secrets were to be revealed at different times. 2 of them were shared in the early years. But the third, that's where the mystery begins. Lucia, the only surviving child into adulthood, eventually became Sister Lucia, and for years, she held on to the third secret unrevealed, burning silently within her soul. Why? Because she wasn't sure if heaven wanted it revealed yet. In 1941, under obedience to her local bishop, Sister Lucia documented the first 2 secrets. These included a vision of hell and a prediction of World War II, along with the request for the consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. These were powerful, haunting visions. But still, one secret remained untouched, unspoken. In October 1943, Sister Lucia fell gravely ill. The Bishop of Our Lady of Fatima, fearing that she might die without ever documenting the third and final message from Our Lady, ordered her to write it down. At first, Lucia resisted. For weeks, she couldn't bring herself to write the words. She believed the timing had to be right, but after much prayer, she finally obeyed. She wrote the third secret of Fatima on a single sheet of paper, a single page, and then sealed it in an envelope. The bishop instructed that it not be opened until 1960. Why 1960? Because, Sister Lucia said, it will be clearer then. As the Catholic world approached 1960, anticipation grew. What would the secret reveal? Would it be about the end of the world, utter, the rise of communism, the return of Christ? But when 1960 came, the Vatican refused to publish it. Instead, they issued a short press release stating that it is most probable the secret will remain forever under absolute seal. Shock, disbelief, confusion. Why would they disobey the instructions of heaven? Pope John Roman XXIII read the secret in 1959 and chose not to release it. Instead, he locked it in the Vatican archives. The mystery deepened. What could be so disturbing that even the Pope himself felt it should not be shared? It wasn't until June 26, 2040 years after the designated release year that the Vatican finally published what they claimed was the third secret. It described a vision, a bishop dressed in white climbing a steep mountain, passing through a city of ruins filled with the dead. Upon reaching the summit, he is killed by a group of soldiers. Alongside him, many clergy and faithful fall. A powerful allegory, yes, but something felt off. It didn't read like a message. It wasn't a letter. There was no mention of doctrinal warning, no explicit text from the Virgin Mary, no moral instructions, just a vision. Fatima scholars begin to ask questions immediately. Catholic scholars, Fatima experts, and even clergy raised serious concerns. First, Sister Lucia herself had said she wrote the third secret on 1 sheet of paper. The text released by the Vatican was 4 sheets handwritten, yes, but different than what was historically recorded. Father Joaquin Alonso, the official archivist of Fatima for 16 years, documented that Sister Lucia told him personally she had written the secret on a single sheet. Second, the format was wrong. There are strong indications that the original secret was written as a letter addressed to the Bishop of Leiria. The Vatican's released document, not a letter. No salutation, no signature, just a description of a vision. What happened to the original? Cardinal Malachi Ciappi, who served as the personal theologian to Popes John Roman XXIII, Paul VI, John Paul I, and John Paul Roman II, made a stunning statement in the Third Secret. It is foretold, among other things, that the great apostasy in the Church will begin at the top. That sentence, at the top, would haunt Catholics for decades. Another voice, Bishop Alberto Cosme do Amaral, the Bishop of Our Lady of Fatima from 1972 to 1993, added this insight: its contents concern only our faith. To identify the secret with catastrophic announcements or with nuclear holocaust is to deform the meaning of the message. So it wasn't about war, it wasn't about Russia, it was about the faith, and more precisely a collapse of it. If the Third Secret warned of a spiritual collapse within the Catholic Church, was the Vatican II afraid to release it? And was it because the warning had already begun unfolding? One of the more revealing witnesses was Fr. Charles Fiore, who had spoken to those with access to the secret. He claimed that the full secret included the following elements: a loss of faith on a massive scale, a breakdown of doctrine and morality, and even a pope under the control of Satan. Some sources suggest that this prophecy may have been too controversial for public release, not just because of what it said, but who it implicated. Others, like Malachi Martin, a former Jesuit and Vatican insider, who claimed to have read the original Third Secret, was even more explicit. The prophecy concerns the final confrontation between the Church and the anti-Church, a spiritual deception so great that even the elect would be deceived. Let's return to a key question. Why 1960? That was the year Our Lady instructed Sister Lucia to have the secret revealed. What happened in the Church in 1960? Nothing yet. But in 1962, just 2 years later, Pope John Roman XXIII convened the Second Vatican Council. A sweeping reform, a modernization of the Church, new liturgies, new languages, new directions, and for many a new confusion. Could it be that the Third Secret was a warning, not about bombs or beasts, but about Vatican Roman II? A single envelope, a single page, a message from heaven sealed, silenced, and still debated to this day. What was it trying to tell us? In the next part, we dive deep into the clergy who read it, the contradictions from within the Vatican, and why some believe the most important prophecy of our time remains buried. When heaven speaks, those entrusted to hear must listen. But what happens when even the highest voices in the Church hesitate to speak? The story of the Third Secret doesn't end with sealed envelopes and Vatican silence. It gets more intense, more revealing when we examine what the Church's own insiders said. In this section, we look beyond speculation. We look to those who read it, held it, or stood just one office away from it. And what they say is enough to shake the pillars of St. Peter's Basilica. Let's begin with Cardinal Malachi Ciappi, not a fringe figure but the personal papal theologian to 4 popes: Pope John Roman XXIII, Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul I, and Pope John Paul Roman II. In an extraordinary statement later circulated among Catholic circles, he revealed, in the Third Secret, it is foretold, among other things, that the great apostasy in the Church will begin at the top. Let that sink in, not from the outside, not from war, not from atheists, but from the top of the Church. The collapse would be internal, and that word apostasy means not just sin or error. It means a turning away from truth, from doctrine, from Christ himself. It's the kind of warning that would explain why the secret was withheld, to announce that the very heart of the Church was in danger of betrayal. How does a pope tell the faithful that? Now consider Cardinal Silvio Oddi, who was secretary to Archbishop Roncalli, the future Pope John Roman XXIII, and was close to the Vatican at the time the secret was being discussed. He suggested that the real contents of the Third Secret were closely tied to what was about to happen in Vatican Roman II. What happened in 1960 that might have been seen in connection with the Secret of Fatima? He asked. The most important event is, without a doubt, the launching of the preparatory phase of the Second Vatican Council. According to Oddi, Pope John Roman XXIII wanted the Church to be renewed from within, to be more open, more engaged with the world. But the third secret, he implied, may have warned of danger in that very openness, a danger not in dialogue but in doctrinal compromise. Then we have Bishop Alberto Cosmi do Amaral, the bishop of the very diocese that contains Fatima itself. In a rare public address in Vienna, 1984, he said something quietly powerful. The Secret of Fatima does not speak of atomic bombs, or nuclear warheads, or SS-20 missiles. Its content concerns only our faith. He wasn't ambiguous. He didn't leave room for sci-fi fantasy. It wasn't about wars. It was about faith itself and the coming crisis of belief. One of the most controversial yet intriguing voices in this mystery is Fr. Malachi Martin, a Jesuit priest, Vatican insider, and author who claimed to have read the real Third Secret in 1960. Though some dismissed him, many respected his intellect and access to power. Here's what he told listeners in an interview. It's not the end of the world, but it is the end of an age. The third secret concerns a spiritual chastisement and a great apostasy in the Church, so great that it will seem as if the true Church had disappeared. In other words, the danger wouldn't be fire or war, but a loss of truth, a flood of deception, and confusion even among the elect. He once said that if people knew the full contents of the third secret, they would fill churches with prayer and penance for years. Father Charles Fior, another priest with credible access, spoke publicly about what was left out of the 2000 Vatican release. He claimed the real third secret included a catastrophic loss of faith from top to bottom, doctrinal corruption, and potentially a pope being manipulated by evil forces within the Church. This aligns with the sentiments expressed by Cardinal Ciappi and Fr. Malachi Martin. None of these voices said it was about nuclear bombs or global floods. They said the Church itself would fall into a great trial from within. If all these men from different parts of the Church speak of an internal collapse, could that be the message heaven delivered to Lucia? And more importantly, has it already begun to happen? Sister Lucia never publicly confirmed or denied the Vatican's 2000 release, but there are curious things she did say before and after. One of her most cryptic warnings came in 1957 during an interview with Father Agustin Fuentes. She reportedly said, "The final battle between the Lord and the reign of Satan will be about marriage and the family," and she warned that the devil is in the mood for engaging in a decisive battle against the Virgin, and he knows what most offends God is the desecration of the family and marriage. Think about what has happened in global culture, in law, and even in religious circles regarding marriage and family since the 1960s. Could this have been part of the prophetic third secret? Even Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, before becoming Pope Benedict Roman XVI, hinted at something deeper. In a 1984 interview with the publication Jesus Magazine, he was asked about the third secret. He replied, "The things contained in this third secret correspond to what is announced in Scripture and are confirmed by many other Marian apparitions, but if it is not published, at least for now, it is to prevent religious prophecy from being misused." He acknowledged that the secret contained warnings, but also implied they were being withheld because of their power to be misunderstood or weaponized. He didn't deny the depth of the prophecy. He feared what might happen if the world misunderstood it. Let's pause and compare. The Vatican's 2000 release gives us a dreamlike vision. A bishop climbs a hill. A destroyed city. Soldiers shoot him. Angels collect souls. It's apocalyptic, yes, but ambiguous. Open to interpretation, but private testimonies from clergy tell of a collapse of belief, a doctrinal breakdown, a corrupted priesthood, and deception from the very heights of the Church. Every pope since 1960 has had access to the real third secret, yet none of them until 2000 chose to release anything. Even then, Pope John Paul Roman II released a version without commentary from Sister Lucia herself. He never said, "This is all there is." In fact, after the 1981 assassination attempt on his life, Pope John Paul Roman II reportedly told close confidants that he believed Fatima's third secret related not just to him but to the Church's wider suffering. He consecrated the world, not specifically Russia, to Mary's Immaculate Heart in 1984, and even that raised eyebrows among Fatima purists. Why didn't he say more? Why do popes remain so cautious about this message from heaven? What did they see in that envelope that still causes fear? Despite different language, different decades, and different ranks, the thread is undeniable. Every credible source connected to the real third secret says the same. It's not about war. It's not about weather. It's about the soul of the Church, a shaking from within, a deception so convincing that even the faithful could be led astray. Let's look around. Since the 1960s, vocations have plummeted. Scandals have rocked dioceses across continents. Churches close. Catechesis weakens. Confession lines shrink while communion lines grow. And moral confusion spreads. Could this be what the third secret foretold? Did Our Lady of Fatima warn of a spiritual famine, a time when even pastors would forget their shepherd's call? The Church is still standing, but is her soul wounded? And if this was the warning we didn't want to hear, what comes next? What if the most controversial council in modern Church history was not the solution to a coming crisis, but the very thing Our Lady warned us about? Vatican II. It's hailed by some as the renewal of Catholicism, a bold step into the modern world. A breath of aggiornamento updating the Church for a new age. But others see it differently. They see in it the fulfillment of a prophecy, a silent earthquake that loosened doctrine, blurred truth, and left a trail of spiritual confusion that even now has not stopped shaking the foundations. In this final chapter, we ask, was Vatican II the event Our Lady of Fatima tried to warn us about? And if so, what happens now? The Second Vatican Council opened on October 11, 1962, just 2 years after the third secret was supposed to be revealed. Coincidence? It was convened by Pope John Roman XXIII, the same pope who read the secret and chose not to release it. The council produced 16 documents, new directions on liturgy, ecumenism, religious freedom, and the Church's role in the modern world. Latin was replaced by the vernacular. Altars were turned around. Gregorian chant faded. Communion rails disappeared. Priests faced the people. Lay people took on new roles. The Church was opening its windows. But as Pope Paul VI later said, something else entered through the cracks. From some fissure the smoke of Satan has entered the temple of God. Let's return to what Cardinal Ciappi said. The great apostasy in the Church will begin at the top. And what Malachi Martin echoed, the secret foretold a spiritual deception so powerful it would seem the Church had disappeared. Now compare that to what we've seen since Vatican II. Over 80,000 priests left the priesthood, convents closed, mass attendance in Europe and North America dropped drastically, catechesis deteriorated, moral teachings became optional in many parishes, confusion reigned. Was this just a result of modernization, or was it the direct result of a misunderstood prophecy? If the Church was supposed to be renewed, why has so much collapsed? The documents of Vatican II on paper did not deny doctrine, but in practice, many were used to justify radical changes, and some of the most painful wounds, sexual abuse scandals, liturgical abuses, theological dissent surfaced and spread after the council. Let's not forget another part of the Fatima message, the request for the consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. According to Sister Lucia, Mary specifically asked for the Pope, in union with all the world's bishops, to consecrate Russia by name. This, we are told, would bring peace and conversion. In 1984, Pope John Paul Roman II consecrated the world, but did not explicitly name Russia. The Vatican later claimed it satisfied heaven's request, but Sister Lucia reportedly said it had not fulfilled the precise terms. Until 2022, under Pope Francis, Russia was finally named. But was it too late? Was the delay part of the consequence? A missed window? A sign that the message had been softened. Imagine this: the third secret warned of a future council intended for good but hijacked by a spirit of innovation that would lead millions into confusion. Not because of evil intent, but because truth was made negotiable, because doctrine was treated like dialogue, because sacred traditions were abandoned for trends. This fits the language used by multiple insiders: smoke of Satan's self-destruction of the church, apostasy at the top. Not a war of bombs, but a war of ideas, a war of beliefs, a war within the sanctuary. Let's entertain the possibility. Pope John Roman XXIII reads the envelope in 1959. He sees the warning, a spiritual crisis, a need for purification and renewal through penance, not modernization, but instead he launches a council focused on engaging the modern world, opening the doors. Could he have believed that the church could handle the danger? Could he have thought the message was too grim to share with a hopeful church? Perhaps. But prophecy doesn't ask to be edited, and when heaven says warn them, heaven means warn them. What about Lucia? Why didn't she object? The truth is, we don't fully know. She was cloistered, carefully managed. Interviews were controlled. Her only comments on the 2000 Vatican version were brief and seemingly rehearsed. Was she under obedience, fear, or had she resigned herself to God's will? We may never know. But what we do know is this: she always said that the third secret was about faith, not physical disaster. And what has been attacked most violently since the 1960s? Faith. Let's return to the vision released in 2000. A bishop dressed in white climbs a ruined city, falls in martyrdom, and the angels gather souls. The Vatican interprets this as Pope John Paul Roman II and the 1981 assassination attempt. But others wonder, is this bishop a symbol of the papacy itself? Is the mountain a metaphor for the church's uphill battle through a collapsing world? Are the ruins the broken state of the faithful? And is the martyrdom a call to purification? If so, the vision is not about one man but about the death and resurrection of the church itself. Yes, the church has been shaken, but she is not destroyed. There are signs of renewal in the very places most wounded. Latin Mass parishes are growing. Eucharistic adoration is returning. Young Catholics are rising not to abandon the old, but to reclaim it. Could this be the final stage of the prophecy? Mary does not warn us to frighten us. She warns us to bring us back. The third secret, whatever its full content may be, was a mercy, a heavenly cry to repent, to protect doctrine, to remain vigilant. The crisis we face may not be fully over, but the victory was always promised. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. That's the final promise of Fatima, and even if the third secret was sealed, silenced, edited, the Mother of God has not abandoned us. The question is not just what the Vatican knew. The real question is, what will we do with the pieces we've been given? Will we return to prayer and penance? Will we demand truth, not comfort? Will we teach our children the fullness of the faith? Will we defend the Eucharist not just in doctrine, but in reverence? The answer to the third secret may not come from Rome. It may come from us, from the faithful who refuse to be deceived, from the remnant who remain watchful. The third secret of Fatima may still be hidden in full, but its echoes are everywhere, in the tears of the saints, in the silence of abandoned altars, in the prayers of the remnant church, and in the triumph to come through the Immaculate Heart of Mary.